Good morning, everybody. Sorry, my camera's totally off center. There we go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what is happening up in the stars above for the week ahead. The week beginning today, August 5th, and running through Sunday, August 11th. We have some things to talk about this morning. It is the quietest week leading up to the craziest week, although I dare say it's likely not going to be very quiet. I just think that there's probably not a lot of new astrological input today until next Sunday. But by the 10th, which will be next Saturday or this coming Saturday, we enter into the T-square window that we talked about with Tam on July 31st, and how that T-square, the craziness of it all, impacts the world in a very big way. And I mean, there's already ominous signs out there. I just saw a news thing pop up about the fear that Iran is going to attack Israel today or sometime early this week. So there's that as a potential. There was already a shakeup this morning with the stock market reacting to what they think might be negative US economic news. And of course, Uranus and Taurus, we have the injection of all of this energy around economy, around agriculture, around the basics of life, right? The whole staying in a stable and secure environment, or having stability and a foundation built in our own lives. So we these things are just like, can you feel it? It's like a crescendo that's building that I don't know to what end, right? Or to what point it comes to. But I feel it. I just feel it building and building and building. And of course, our job is to stay in the calm and the cool and the collected, to keep doing the work that we are here to do to help elevate and evolve this planet that we live on, to stay true to our values, to stay in a state of peace. And even though the outer world is, going crazy, mad. Here we are, and it's calm and cool right here in this moment, right? In the moment that we are in. And it's an interesting week, to juxtapose that against the energy of the week. The sun is in the gate of collaboration. And the earth in the gate 13, which is a gate called narrative in quantum human design, but is about listening. When we take a look at it in the gene keys and when we look at it through the eyes of traditional human design. And that means it is a week for us to create like team building or collaboration, like through community or through the work that you do or through your family, however that plays out in your life, because everybody gets, the transit of the gate 7 and the transit of the gate 13 going on in their chart, whether you have it defined or not by birth. It's now a part of your week. So we're going to break that down this morning. We also start the week in the moon void, of course. So at 8:16. So let's see, it's 8:03 my time. So we have, just about 13 minutes before the moon goes into the void, where it will stay until 2:17 p.m. West Coast time today. And that means for nearly, the entire workday, we are in this wobbly, wandering period of time. The void, of course, moon happens when the moon comes to make the last of the connections it will make before it moves on into the next sign. And guess what? That last connection that the moon made was a square to the planet Uranus. So we have this emotional surprises, right? Emotional innovation, timely surprises, right? I don't know. Right. The moon has already come into that square. So we're sitting in it even now. But it is the last aspect the moon will make before she moves off into the sign of Virgo. Now, Virgo puts a completely different spin on the moon. And while in Leo, she's been about being the partier, the having fun, the playfulness, the self-expression, the creativity, right? In Virgo, the moon starts to focus us on precision, on practicality, on grounding, and attention to detail, and actually working, right? Doing work in some form of service to the planet, to your family, to the world, to your community you share. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And we also know that Mercury here involves the retrograde and that he's retrograde in Virgo. And he is also in a conjunction this week to Venus, already within just a couple of degrees of one another. So, by all intents and purposes, it's already a conjunction. So in Virgo, Mercury rules things like efficiency and analysis and the path of service that we all take toward helping one another, making it an excellent time for all of us, as we go into this week for in your personal lives or your work lives, for organizing, for planning, for strategizing, for addressing health concerns and well-being concerns, and also your daily routines. Like every once in a while, I have the moon in Virgo. So I do get myself into these routines. And every once in a while, I have to break them, right? I have to break out of them because they can get so repetitive that I find myself doing it without any consciousness. Right. You guys probably have all, seen that at some point in time in your own lives, or when you're driving and you get into road hypnotism and suddenly you're at your exit and you're like, where did that come from? How did I get here? Because we can sometimes just get into this set routine, right? We're driving the same road every day, taking the same exit at the same time. We get out of bed, we do the same routine. And that gets us, routines are good, right? For stability, but sometimes we have to shake them up. And that is our opportunity, right? To really take a look at those routines during this particular time. And, maybe make some tweaks to the things that we're doing just to be different. But also, because Virgo is a sign that favors practicality over emotionalism, which is interesting. Moon, emotional, Virgo, practical. Maybe we can set up a new sort of routine or reorder our lives that helps us clean out some of the physical and the mental spaces that we have, right? Where we've been stuck, we can clear that. Where we have been in this pattern of don't doing the same things over and over, then we can create something new, which is always awesome, right? To do that. But the key themes and influence of this moon in Virgo is going to back up the Venus and the Mercury retrograde ideals. So we have an organizational focus, right? One that is all about the attention to detail in our home, in our work, in our personal space. And it's productive time, right? It's a time to declutter. It's a time to organize and streamline your processes or streamline, your closets. Your, to aim at efficiency, I guess would be the key here. But detail-oriented tasks are the ones that are favored after we get to the moon in Virgo later this afternoon, my time, evening for those of you on the East Coast. And begin this process of really taking a look at all of the details. Now, when we look at the moon in Virgo through health consciousness, what we see is it brings our attention to detail to health, right? To our bodily functions, to the things that we're taking in and ingesting, whether it's water or food or any other food that we take in or drinks that we take in, but then also the stream of our health here also picks up on the immune system. And that's because the opposite sign of Virgo is Pisces, and Pisces rules the immune system, right? Or the lymphatic system. So here we have this possibility of tuning in and strengthening a routine, or eating and drinking things, detoxifying our environment in a way to be able to support better health, and making routine adjustments. Like, I was thinking about this morning, that why do I always want to do things at a specific time? Well, it's just a force of habit. It becomes a habit, but doesn't mean I have to do it at that point in time. Probably not, right? I could do something different. And it might contribute positively to your mental and your physical health to do things a little bit out of order, right? Try it. You might like it. And it is also a time for practical problem solving. When we have practical problems that face us, right? Balancing the checkbook, making sure our health routines are taken care of, cleaning, and organizing a cupboard, right? Practical concerns, right? And problems to solve in that practical sort of way. And there's a sort of methodicalness about this energy as well. It's an earth sign. Virgo is earth. And we're taking, that ability of the moon to show us when timing is right for a change. And we're applying it in practical ways to our day to day life, which might improve efficiency, organization, practicality, all those kind of not particularly sexy things in our lives, but they're very important for our overall well being and health. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Now, challenges to watch out for with the moon in Virgo. Of course, there's always side, the negative side. And it can be, remember, Virgo is a sign of perfectionism as well. There's a certain amount of critical judgment that comes from the sign, right? It's the ability that Virgo has to help us tune into analyzing. And if we're analyzing something, that can come off sometimes as being nitpicky or perfectionistic or judgmental, critical, right? Those are the sort of the negative things. And it's the critical eye. We can see so clearly what you need to do to restore harmony, or what I need to do, in my case, to restore order, or whatever it is, right? So we see it so clearly. And that causes us to want to bring that up to the person maybe in our family who's creating, havoc for themselves, and we see how we can help them clear it up. But be aware of how you critique others during this period of time, right? These couple of days. Let me tell you the days, by the way. This afternoon, tomorrow, Tuesday, all day Wednesday, and a shift early in the morning on the 8th. So Thursday. So a good chunk of the work week, with Moon and Virgo, bringing this kind of stuff up for us to take a look at. So be careful to critique others when asked. We don't just go up to somebody and say, "Hey, that doesn't look good on you." Or, you know, put in our 2 cents when no one's asked us to put in our 2 cents. So we want to watch out for that. But we also have to watch out for our own tendencies to perfectionism during this time. And here's the thing, the the tendency toward perfectionism can maybe result in our unnecessary stress or disappointment in ourselves or in what we're doing, because we're, constantly picking something apart, like, "Oh, I see that. Oh, I see that." And I'm trying to fix it all, which just keeps delaying the putting out of the product, or the doing of said project, whatever it is, right? So we have to be very careful. So it's okay to aim for high standards, and just remember that perfectionism sometimes just can lead us down this blank road where we just never seem to achieve perfectionism. It feels counterproductive then to constantly seek perfectionism, because everything is as perfect as it can be in this moment, or else it would be different, right? So keep that in mind. So perfectionism and overly critical, those are the two things we really want to watch out for during this period of time. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay. So it's an opportune time for us to focus on the details, focus on the practical matters, the health and the organization of life in general, or of a space, or of your own body, of your new home. If you are, I know a couple of people who are moving. It's so interesting, right, to see themes that pop up in your life. And by embracing Virgo's tendency for meticulousness and analysis and service, you can make substantial improvements in your life for these next couple of days, and even longer, because Mercury and Venus are also in Virgo. Mercury until the 14th, and then he retrogrades out back into Leo for a bit, but we'll come back to Virgo. Venus for the next few weeks in Virgo. So this Virgo energy isn't like just one and done. This isn't just, the 3 days of the new moon, newly made moon. transiting through Virgo. It is a longer period of time that we have this Virgo energy with us so that, our well-being is uppermost in our minds or should be uppermost in our minds during this period of time. All right, let me say good morning to people out there this today. J-Lo, hello, happy Monday to you as well. Diana S, good morning. Narges, good morning. Sly Guy, grand rising, beautiful people, sending love and positive vibes. We love that. Tom, hello to you. And Pam Zaruba and Christine Buckingham. Tom says, surprise! Ha 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 ha. All those Uranian surprises. Christine, has anyone else gotten a letter from Ticketmaster saying your credit card has been compromised? I haven't used them for at least 10 years. Annoyed to say the least. This was a yuck surprise. I did get a letter like that, Christine, but it seems like it was more than a month ago. And I too, I guess I did use Ticketmaster in the recent past when I bought tickets to see somebody. But that would have been like 2 years ago. And anymore when I get those, I just go check and make sure that my passwords are all up to date. And what else can I do? I mean, it's already happened. There's not much I can do about it except to make sure that it's not going to affect me negatively if I can. Sly Guy, music can bring us therapy and joy. Listening to music and or jamming with someone is such a beautiful way to express yourself and heal. Absolutely. Sometimes I just need to turn that radio up as high as it'll go or stream my music as high as it'll go. And often I have certain artists that evoke certain feelings that I will play, right? Or stream. So Teddy, good morning to you. I'm surprised you're here because today isn't today big moving day for you. Tom W can't put in your 2 cents in Canada. They stopped making pennies. If years ago one has to put in 5 cents worth now, a nickel for your thoughts. Jeez. Joan Durchie, good morning. Londa, good morning. And Tom says Maria Moldar. Oh yeah. No, 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 I didn't buy those from Ticketmaster. It was, a psychic guy whose name escapes me for the moment, and he is a medium, and he's quite flamboyant. Oh my Londa, you and I and Jennifer and Heather, we went to see him. What was his name? I've totally lost his name. But anyway, he was the one that I bought tickets for the last time. So Christine, I just got it today. It was over 10 years ago. Wondered if it was a scam letter. Yeah, I do not know if it was a scam or not. I just did not panic about it. Matt who? Matt, him. Matt Fraser. Matt Fraser. There we go. Thank you, Londa. Thank you, my other half of my brain out there. Um, didn't you see John Holland? I did. Debbie Tibbets-Tumiel and I went on a cruise that included Colette Baron-Reid and John Holland, but that wasn't a Ticketmaster purchase. That would have been through what Holland America, I think it was, that we were on. But yeah, he was awesome too. Catherine Worcester, good morning to you. So I think I've said good morning to everybody here, and now we're going to go into talking about the sun's move into the gate 7 and the Earth's move into the gate 13. Uh, I always find the gate 7 to be such an interesting gate, right? Because, first of all, I don't have it in my human design, but yet I find myself always wanting to collaborate and become, a team with someone. But my North Node and my Mars and my Uranus and my Black Moon Lilith are all in Leo. So there's always that very, I need to be alone to do all these things kind of thing. So even though those gates are not in my chart, I'm always thinking about, well, how can I collaborate or how can I bring, things together? But, energy always seems to, pull me in a different direction. But when we have the sun sitting at the gate 7, it pulls all of our attention toward collaboration or teamwork. How do we pull together to work toward a goal or toward something that we want to accomplish? Now, gate 7 sits on the identity center or the G center, which is the diamond in the middle of your human design. And it's on the left side, it connects up to the throat center with the gate 31, who just a couple of weeks ago was where the sun was sitting. And that is the gate of democratic leadership, right? Of elected leadership, of the group vibe that agrees through a vote or through a consensus that this person will be the leader. And that particular leadership is what this country was initially founded on, several countries around the world, with this kind of idea that, yes, we have an elected leader, but that all of our voices count, and that is how we lead. Well, when we get to the gate 7, the opposite, it's the balancing point here. It's the point that really brings up the need to be in a team and to not have that authoritarian or autocratic kind of leadership going on, because we all have voices, right? And we all have different ideas. And herein lies some of the problems, right? We all have different ideas, for example, in this country, how to lead, or, what things need to happen in order to um, help immigration or to stop the runaway inflation, or, all the different things. But it doesn't mean that, one side or the other is correct. With the gate 7, we see that we need all the voices, we need the whole team. And if you only have, people that are telling you certain things that that excludes the other half of the people, let's say, then you're not collaborating. You are not in a sense of democratic leadership. You are kind of authoritarian. Right. So we have to watch that during this kind of a transit. And this can happen in governments, this can happen in communities, this can happen in families, right? We have these, ways that this can show up in our lives. So the focus then with this gate in emphasizes the role of leadership, but not in the traditional sense of a single authoritative figure, but more about the need for all of us to be in a collaborative effort to bring something about, right? Democratic leadership style, and the input or consensus of the group is valued. Value is the other thing that we've got to put into this, right? We value your opinion. You see that often when I get opinion things all the time, right? They always want me to give my 2 cents. Um, because if it comes right down, if we boiled it right down to the bottom, we'd have pretty much common values. We just want to approach doing them in different ways, right? So, how do we do that? Well, we have to collaborate, right? We have to learn how to have collective efforts. And this gate's energy supports the initiatives that require coordination among parties, different peoples, and encourages an inclusive kind of leadership style that considers the welfare and opinions of all involved. Now, it doesn't mean that, I mean, literally, if we're trying to solve a problem, we have to find a solution. And there are going to be so many different voices, perhaps, that we have to figure out how we can make that decision. And this is the why we go with consensus, right? The consensus people, right? The consensus of the most number of people. Now, Earth. So gate 7 is what we're reaching toward, right? Or this energy of collaboration is what we're reaching to. And the sun is always a very powerful pull for us to live out the highest energy that's available during that time. But the earth is always where we have our feet, right? Our feet are on the ground here on the earth. Thus, we must take practical action to attain the highest benefit of the sun. And this is true in your own personal chart too. You all have an earth on the cosmic self side, and you have an earth on your earth life side. And those two things have to be fulfilled in order to, or handled, in order to reach the highest effect of the sun on both the cosmic and life purpose sides. So sometimes in astrology, we kind of like minimize Earth. It's just kind of implied, right? I when I do readings for astrology, I'm not saying, oh yes, and your Earth is in Sagittarius, Janet, so you need to do this, this, or this. It's just kind of there, implied, right? But in human design, we have an Earth, and that Earth guides us to the practical expression of what must be in place in order for us to move to the highest level of the sun, right? So you guys let me know if that's understandable. Do you get it? Good morning, Jacqueline. And happy Monday to you as well. Um, so the Earth at the gate 13, which is also on the G center or identity center, also a gate that is rising up to meet the throat center, the center for communication, metabolism, and manifesting. And the gate 13 is called the gate of narrative in quantum human design. And it's about sharing stories. We have another storytelling week, right? Remember the gate 33 last week at the Sun? It was a bit of a story. It was a historian's view of the story. His story, which we need to change because we need everybody's stories. Um, but the gate 13 is all about listening to and sharing stories. And this gate really values the narratives each individual brings to the table and recognizing that personal experiences and histories can provide profound insights and wisdom. So it is where the voice of the people become the voice of the individual that's added to the voice of the people. And in this particular gate, the earth helps us to foster a sense of compassion, connection, empathy for our fellow humans. The storytelling here is what helps us to build those emotional connections, right? Because the empathy comes when we're able to, tune into the common theme perhaps that we share with other people who are experiencing problems or issues, right? Like all of us right now can kind of tune in to the southeast part of this nation, USA, where Hurricane Debbie has just gone ashore and is, supposedly going to create a ton of rain for the North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. Yikes, right? So I can empathize with that and flooding, which we seem to have had a lot of flooding this year, it seems like, but we can empathize because we're connected. So this is a gate of connection and how the journey of our lives connects to that, right? I think we all have probably been in a flood or have had the severe threat of a flood come to the neighborhood that you live in, to the state that you live in, to the country that you live in. And if not that, different other weather events. And I'm just using weather because it's one that seems to be a big theme lately. But we can all sort of connect through that, right? And in sharing of the story, then it can help us improve the system of predicting. Maybe it helps us improve the system of holding back water or of any numerous things that can happen when we share the stories, right? And then that fosters a sense of community and belonging. So this is a time this week, and this will be from the 5th through the 10th, right? So from through today, well, today is when it starts. I still haven't turned my calendar. I'm so embarrassed. From the 5th through the 10th, before we move into the next gate, to learn about and work on team dynamics. And isn't it interesting that as a part of this week, we still have what is another week of the Olympics, right? The teams from across the world that compete in various um, events to, bring honor to themselves and to their nations, and just in the spirit of collaboration, in the spirit of teamwork. It's kind of interesting, right? I mean, they could have chosen any week in the summer, but they chose these 2 weeks, right? That were kind of about the stories that we tell and the histories that are being created, and then this week in the storytelling that binds us in a common wanting to share of the stories of leadership and so forth. I think it's kind of interesting. So, how do we make the most of this energy for this next week? Well, we can work in collaboration with others. If you're working on a project, put your energy into it, right? Don't stand on the sidelines and just watch or, think to yourself, well, I really wish they would approach it this way. Say something, speak up, right? And put your 2 cents in or your 5 cents in, since pennies are worth nothing anymore. Um, Emphasizing open communication. But remember that communication is something that happens when you are given like the talking stick, right? Remember, we're listening here. This is also called the earth is in the gate of listening in traditional human design. So listening and communicating, listening, communicating go hand in hand, right? So maybe sharing in the responsibility for leadership decisions, And that helps us make the most of the gate 7, right? The collaborative energy, the team building energy, but also leadership roles. If you are in a leadership position, then focus on being a facilitator who empowers others to use their voices. Say, okay, I'm throwing this out to the group now. What do you all think about doing things this way? And then give everybody an opportunity to chime in, exchange ideas, right? Talk about, well, what might work better, or how would it look if we did it this way? Be willing to do that. Lead by consensus rather than direct leadership, like directing people, or by promoting the environment of every team member feeling valued, even if the decision doesn't go your way because the preponderance of people want it a different way. At least you were heard, you were seen, you were valued, you were recognized, right? That's the key. And then as far as storytelling and community building is concerned, the earth part of all of this, share your personal stories, right? Engage in a way that allows you to share your experiences and allowing others to share their experiences, especially in group discussions or in team building activities within your work or within your uh, community events, things like that. And listening, active listening to other stories with empathy and without judgment. There's another big deal here, right? This is soul. The center it's on, the G center, the identity center, is very mundane sounding, but this is the seat of your soul. And this is where we are also quite vulnerable to the impact our stories have on other people, right? So if somebody is sharing, they're opening up vulnerability enough to share something, and then they get criticized for it. Ooh, right? It's a very big ouchie. And it's this is something that we're all wanting to learn about, is listening, understanding that people have different ideas and different takes on how things should work, and honoring the vulnerability it takes to share your true and authentic self and your true and authentic feelings. So, also, this is a time for personal reflection and expression. We've had, last week that was like that. This week is also like that. Reflect on your story. Take the time to reflect on the story that you're telling yourself, about your life, and consider how your experiences have shaped your worldview or your view on any topic of concern. And then how has that also contributed to the actions that you take, right? It's the story. So writing or journaling about your story can be very therapeutic, and then it's also a very honest and authentic way of engaging this energy. And then use creative outlets to express yourself, whether it's art or writing or speaking. Share your stories with others. It can be cathartic, and it can be enlightening too when you note that you've put something up that's really been nagging at you, and all the comments coming back are people who have had that same experience, or who are feeling about the same, right? It can be very, validating. So this is a week for that. Challenges to watch out for. Make sure that there isn't an overemphasis on consensus. Now, while collaborative efforts are really highlighted this week, there's a risk of becoming overly focused on achieving consensus, potentially leading to indecision or delayed actions. Consensus is beautiful, but are we ever going to have 100% of the people agreeing to something? That isn't realistic because we are all individuals. The best we can hope for is that we get as much of a consensus as we can get before we need to actually take an action step. So balance the idea of collective decision making with the need to move projects forward, right? We just can't keep circling the drain trying to figure out how it is that we need to get down there. We have to do something, right? Also, watch out for emotional overload. Sometimes when we are revisiting and sharing our stories, they can get very emotional, right? Because stories evoke that intense emotion that you experienced at that time. So we want to make sure that we don't get into an overload on that kind of thing. And that when we do start to share, that it's a safe space for us to share with others, or else it can be used against you. It could be you can be criticized and so forth, right? So always making sure there's a group emphasis on making sure everybody is heard and that it's in a safe environment, no matter whether someone has a radical idea or not. It's a safe environment to share, brings cohesion to a group. So lead with sensitivity this week, listen with intent, actively engaged in the process of listening, and then share your own stories with courage and, willingness to step out. And, you don't know how the words you might say and the sharing of your story might impact someone who's having a terrible experience in their lives right now, right? So, sometimes sometimes we're a little hesitant to share, like maybe it's TMI, right? And or there's some kind of shame in the story, whatever that might be. We have to get over that, right? So that the story can heal and that we can move the story forward. The whole idea would be to have a story that is of how you overcame a challenge or how you moved through this particular phase that was going on in your life, so that you are sort of a role model for others as to how to move forward in your life, even in the face of disasters or traumas and dramas, right? But also the good side of things, like how did you achieve, millionaire status? How did you achieve, this team that works together so positively, right? So the stories are both positive, but also the stories that are more challenging. So all of the stories come out. All right. Good morning, Terry. And any questions, anybody, you can actually post a comment in either YouTube or Facebook. And if I don't see it in the broadcast, I tend to go back after I've got the production done on the video and I answer those questions for people. All right. So later this week, there is a very positive aspect pattern happening between Jupiter and Mars and the Sun. So, Jupiter and Mars right now are both in the sign of Gemini. And in today's chart, they are 5 degrees, is it? Let's see. Gemini, there we go. Mars is at 10 degrees and Jupiter at 15 degrees. They're headed for a conjunction in the next week or two, or next week, I think it is. And it's a very positive coming together. It can be a little bit overblown, but it can be a very positive coming together. And today, each one of those planets, are this week, I mean, are in a sextile to the sun. And a sextile is a relationship between planets that is harmonizing, right? So it means the energy of the sun in Leo is in a harmonious aspect, can harmonize with Gemini's communication and mind orientation and teaching and learning. And the sun, of course, in Leo, very self expressive, right? Wanting to be seen, being encouraged to stand in your confidence and share with others, right? So we have another sort of sharing energy going on here. So when the sun forms that sextile aspect with Mars and Jupiter both, it creates this high energy moment, right? This environment that's ripe for expansion and learning and action, right? Mars action, Mars and Gemini moving quick, taking quick action, and Jupiter in Gemini, which is about this expansion into optimism, this more information and informational energy, learning and teaching, and all of that kind of coming in. So the sun in a supportive angle here to these planets really facilitates positive developments and communication in our intellectual pursuits, but also dynamic expression of our energies out in the world in whatever way that it is that your sign of Gemini and Leo are configured in your own personal charts, right? The houses that they are in. So some of the themes that we might see with this energy are about intellectual growth and expansion. There's always going to be that, which stimulates our curiosity and our need to learn more. It's kind of The sun in that relationship with Jupiter is kind of amplifying the desire for more knowledge and more understanding. And it kind of acts as an enhancement to our pursuit of intellectual information. So it energizes the quest for info, please, more. And it makes it a good time for education, for research, for broadening your horizons, right? There is that, let's see the bigger picture, right? Let's move to the higher ground and see how all of this fits together. Which also then, because Mars and Jupiter are in the sign of communication, enhances our communication with one another, and also puts a like a positive spin perhaps on the things that we say, where we're able to better articulate, even with Mercury retrograde, better articulate our thoughts and our ideas so that we are understood more easily through by other people. Of course, I always want to say this with the idea of communication, that you're always heard, recognized, valued, seen, and understood better when you are invited to speak, right? When somebody asks you a question and you have the answer, or when you have something that you want to share, an idea or something unique, and you ask, to the group whether it's a good time for you to share this wonderful idea you've just had, and waiting for them to say yes, right? Yes, share. We want to hear. So we want to balance that. We don't want to just keep talking all the time, right? Because that undermines the whole strength of the communication. This will be a time of enthusiasm and optimism, even if the chaos is going on in the outer world. Those are things that have already been put into play, right? And as we talked about when Tam was on air with me on the 31st, that Jupiter Mars conjunction was in place when Israel first attacked Iran back in April, right? They had that exchange of gunfire and bombing, whatever that happened then. And here we are at the next coming together, and now we're in this position of Iran in this case, going back at Israel. So the energy of that conjunction can be very crazy, and that's in building mode right now, but that's happening irregardless of your personal impact in this, right? So keep that in mind. The world is going to do what the world is going to do, and personally, I don't have a whole lot of choice in what's going on with Israel and Iran. But I can personally come on here and talk to you every day or twice a week about the astrology and how you can use that energy in your own life for the positive impact. That's how I can contribute. And all of you can find your way to contribute. But for us personally, it can also be a very positive outlook. And there's a lot of vitality and energy that's wrapped into this that can ramp up our actions in the world and how we manifest those things that we want to manifest. So there is this, really positive side to it. And, if countries would, pay attention to astrology, maybe they would get it and they would collaborate and they would come together and make a consensus as much as possible about how to go forward in their issues. Not that they haven't been, but okay, not so well done at this point. Also, this is a very social aspect. And by social, I mean, our professional networks and how we converse with one another professionally, but also in our family and our networks, how we connect there, but also in our work and in our communities, right? It's a very networking kind of energy. And it's the communication, the sharing of ideas and the sharing of things that is combined with the expansive nature of Jupiter and the assertiveness of Mars that can move us forward. Right, it can take that energy and move us forward, and then it's a time for promoting our ideas and our projects, the things that we're engaged in, so that it is something helpful for others. So in the practical expression, there's this idea of learning what you don't know. If you don't know something, go learn it. Right? If you need to know something to help in your business or to help in, your life in general, see if you can learn about it. Right? YouTube is such a great place to go search for how to do anything, literally. Maybe it's a time for workshops or seminars or to attend or enroll in a course, right? Something that you want to learn. It's a time for professional growth and to initiate projects. Right. We're in the new moon energy. The only thing with Mercury retrograde is you want to make sure that all the dots are on the I's and the crosses are on the T's before you release it. Right. Don't go into over perfectionism, but make sure that the main parts are all there, like inviting someone to a workshop, but forgetting to tell them the date, right? That's a detail that we want to make sure we have in there. Seek new opportunities, new promotions, new ways to promote yourself or your work. Seek ways to collaborate with others. It's a great time for all of that. Just watch out for overextending yourself. Jupiter is an amplifier. And if a little bit feels good, a whole lot will feel much better, right? Not always. So we have to watch out for that. That optimistic and energetic influence might lead you to take on more than you can realistically handle. Monitor your commitments. Make sure you know what you are saying yes to. Like I just said yes to something last week, uh, a fair that I now have to renege on because I forgot my brother is coming to visit me that same weekend. Oh, I mean, I want to see my brother, but I should have checked my calendar before I said yes, right? My excitement got carried away, and now I've committed to something that I can't really commit to. So I've got to walk that back. That's a little bit embarrassing, right? So watch out for overextending yourself, which means watch out for what you say yes to. Make sure it is what you really desire. Make sure that you're not over committing your energy and your time, and watch out for communication overload, right? There could be so much communication going on, that so many different things that we want to talk about, that we can end up scattering our energy and losing focus on what's most important. But definitely use the time, right, for some networking events, maybe. Depends on, what field of endeavor you're involved with. And make sure you know, active listening, make that a part of the whole communication, right? Don't let your enthusiasm to get your ideas across lead you to talk all the time without listening. All right. J Lo, thank you very much. Please take a moment to hit the like button and to share your link or your my link to this video with your friends on your social media. If you like what you're hearing and you haven't yet done so, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then you can there's a little bell there that will inform you when I have a new broadcast coming up. And next, and we've talked about this a little bit already, but I can't remember if we talked about it. I think we did it with Tam last Wednesday. Will This is about Mercury in retrograde, conjuncting Venus in Virgo, which right now Mercury's at 4 degrees of Virgo and Venus is at 1 something. Hold on, let's look at the chart to make sure I'm telling you the truth. She's at 0:35 of Virgo and Mercury at 4 degrees of Virgo. So they're already conjunct for all intents and purposes, right? The orbs are 6 degrees usually for a conjunction of the inner planets, and they're within that coming together. So if we look at, well, what does it mean to have the two inner planets, the planet of communication, but in Virgo he takes on analytical and critical and perfecting efficiency, organized energies, mind organization, right? Organizing your thoughts, organizing how you learn, how you teach, right? And we take Venus in Virgo, who's got a very scientific sort of, she's, donned her lab coat here in Virgo, where she is applying that to finances and to your relationships and to all the beauty and harmonizing aspects that she takes on. And so what we might end up here with this alignment is a reflective and analytical approach to communication, to your relationships, to your money, to your values. And Virgo's influence really brings the more meticulous aspect out, right? The attention to detail, the seeing, what's under the surface and not just superficial, but getting a little bit deeper here. And the critical eye to the details. And Venus actually softens this energy a bit for the Mercury analysis, right? Is softened by Virgo's being here because she does focus still, even in Virgo, on harmony and on beauty and on keeping relationships. And that combination then can suggest a time for us to reassess some of the things that we're doing, the relationships that we're in, review, and then possibly refine. Venus is always a refiner, right? She refines how we express affection, how we express ourselves in our relationships, how we manage our finances, how we show up in the world is really impacted because these are personal planets. They affect you and me, right? They affect us. And the key themes here are going to be part retrograde Mercury, which would be reevaluation of the relationships that you're in, reevaluating the words you say, how you say what you say. And it invites us to really go through a thorough examination of how we show up in our relationships. And it might be about how we change the way that we communicate. Um, Maybe revisit past issues between ourselves and others and clarify misunderstandings that we might have had with other people. So, all in all, this is really kind of enhancing our ability to be more diplomatic and more tactful, perhaps, because Venus's influence here, she's softening the words, right? She's softening the communication, a kinder, gentler approach, perhaps. But you may find that you still end up in some kind of, critical, judgmental conversations and then need to find a way to peace and balance on the other side of that equation so that you don't end up in feeling so vulnerable or feeling so critiqued. This is a great time for a financial review. Of course, that means reassessing your debt, reassessing what you're spending your money on, and because Venus rules financial matters here, this is a great time to take the critical eye, the Virgo energy, and look at, where might things be getting spent that you didn't even realize you're spending. Um, Redo a budget, make a new financial plan. You might find errors in your credit card statements or in your bank statements. You wouldn't know that though if you didn't look at them, right? So reassess all things to do with finances, but also do a values re-evaluation, right? What is important to you? What do you truly value? Both in terms of material things, but also in your relationships. What is it that you really find valuable or beautiful in your life and in your relationships? Because as this comes under scrutiny during this period of time, you may find a new sense of what is truly worthy and valuable to you. But again, you wouldn't do that if you didn't undertake this process, right? What is it that is truly valuable? This might be a time for a creative review as well, right? Venus does rule creativity in some sense, the beautifying of a project or a creative project. And it can be a great time for us to revise, to review, to reimagine what it is that we're working on. And also, what I find interesting when Mercury is retrograde is that we often go back to a project that got tabled for a time and we update it perhaps, and then maybe its time has come to get put out into the world. But also the creative energy with an eye to detail, right? Seeing the details in that creation, carefully examining everything that's there and making sure it's all correct, right? Mercury retrograde. And watch out for overcriticism, both toward yourself, but also toward others. Um, Watch out for communication delays and misunderstandings. It happens, right? It just happens. And we're not immune from it, right? It's not just, people in government or, big, ad campaigns that go wrong. It's in our own personal communication with others, that type of thing. So watch for that. Double check all the important messages. and documents, and try to be clear and as concise as possible when you're speaking to someone. But it's a unique opportunity in this conjunction for us to revisit various aspects of our lives, various projects, from relationships to finances to your creative expression of yourself out in the world, by utilizing detail, right? And the analytical abilities of Virgo, we can sort of harmonize our projects or harmonize in our relationships. And, perhaps that's a significant improvement over the way things have been earlier for you. All right. J-Lo, she just crossed over my IC at zero point 0.3 in Virgo. Um, I don't know what 29. Oh, in the gate 29.6. 29 is the gate of saying yes, right? The commitment gate. And what have you committed to? What are you wanting to commit to? And is it in alignment with your truth, right? With your authentic self? And the thing about the gate 29, J-Lo, is it wants to commit, and you're a sixth line, so it's a role model line. And I can sort of feel this because I have my Mars at gate 29, where I want to take on everything. I want to say yes to everything. But that's not possible, right? It's not possible to say yes to everything and to still be able to have time to do anything, right? You got to be able to take care of the doing to of the things that you say yes to, right? So that's a lot of work sometimes. All right. That is it for me this morning. I am going to pull a card. This deck jumped out at me this morning. It is Guides of the Hidden Realms Oracle by Colette Baron Reed. And I don't know why it jumped out at me, but it did. So I pulled the cards out early so I would have access to it. How did everybody do at the new moon? Right? Did you get your intentions set? Were you real creative in the way that you set those Leo intentions? Ooh, this card. Um, oh, this is so freaking interesting. It's two cards, and they are side by side. The one says non-action, slow down, not yet, and it says frozen for a time. Card number 16, which is a 7. There's some spiritual component there. And then the second card that fell out here is surrendering attachments, releasing unconscious patterns, letting go of stories. Ay, ay, ay. Right? I can't make that up. This card is a 34, which is also a 7. Two cards that are of a very spiritual orientation. Can't make this stuff up. So frozen for a time. Card number 16. Let's read this one. And its key concepts are non-action, slow down, winter season, wait for a better time, not yet. The season of winter is a time of rest and non-action for all kinds of life. There are some plants losing their leaves or shutting down their growing energy. Some animals enter hibernation, slowing down their life force and entering the dream time. Now is a similar time for you. A season of non-action enables you to rest and gives you the opportunity to dream again, to contemplate the life you're given and your past and your future choices. This is not to say that nothing could happen now, but perhaps you've gotten ahead of yourself and need to get back in sync with the universe's plans. Maybe something different will manifest now that you've done so much inner work. Winter appears so you can put things on ice and wait until a better, more aligned time returns. For now, no matter your query, slow down, observe, take a break, and then let go. Things might be slower than you want, and that has to be okay. What appears to be not for you may only be the universe saying, not yet. It's time to make space for something new to develop within you. Soon it will bring spring again, and with many more opportunities to help your dreams come true. Yay. Okay, now let's look at 34, the other 7. 3 plus 4 is 7. And letting go of stories. Maybe we need to slow down so that we can let go of stories. Key concepts: surrendering attachments, the stories we tell about ourselves, who we could become without the stories, releasing unconscious patterns, freedom to change. It's an amazing feeling when you don't want anything because you know your needs will be met. You feel fulfilled and at peace with where you are in life. You love for the sake of loving, you create for the sake of creation, and you live for the sharing of it all. Joy, sorrow, light and dark, birth and death, order and mess, mystical and mundane. This is a life of true service. Very Virgo themes, by the way, here. Being present without conditions, yet brimming with inspired creativity and extraordinary possibilities. This is the truth of a powerful, magical life, and the way here is in your sights. Be mindful now of the stories you tell about yourself and to others. Make sure those stories embrace and have space for the true abundance the universe has for you. When you decide to finally let go of the stories of limitation, you may discover another path even better than the one you've been holding on to. Can you let go of all of your attachments, desires, and most cherished dreams and let them be in the care of spirit? When you choose to do this without reservation, the magic will begin. Get ready. Frozen in Time and Letting Go of Stories, two very powerful cards from the Guides of the Hidden Realms deck by Colette Baron Reed. All right, now that is it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you all on Friday, where we'll start to take a breakdown look at that powerful T square that will start to be impacting all of us. Thank you so much. Bye.